We're on the final countdown to the red carpet and all the players that you want to see. So how do you figure it out? Matt Derrick's going to explain to us Veach, lies, and the smokescreens and how to get it sorted today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome in, everybody. Your favorite week that isn't the Super Bowl is this week here on Draft Week. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show for your next one, because we're free and available all the time, everywhere, on every continent that I can think of, and maybe even outer space. Ask the shuttle folks. But today on Locked On Chiefs, we're going to talk about this draft. And I can't get to it fast enough here. We're going to get some clarity from what I think versus what Matt thinks. Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is going to lay it all out for us as he sees it, as well as the back and forth and what we have to try to see through. So today, we're going to get through the smoke screens. We're going to talk about lying season, and we're going to see what the tendencies are that might get broken all to hell and gone this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for being with us. Check out not only Matt's site at ChiefsDigest.com, but his YouTube channel at Chiefs Digest as well. 41 is the mic, the podcast. I can't think of, maybe you're broadcasting over Starlink. I don't know, Matt. I certainly am. You can find me, and the draft guide is still available. You can still use the discount LOC. Get on there. It's at rogueapc.com. There's a link in the description. And as of an hour or two, by the time you guys got this, my full horizontal board, all 7 rounds, every position, every player that I would take and where I would take him is free and available on NFL33.com. Go get it. It's a PDF download. It's super simple, and you can track along with the draft right as I do. So check that out. And all the extra content's at RGR Football. Thanks for checking out all these other things that we do, because we got to get that out of the way because there's too much going on here, Matt. And this is the fun part. We're brought to you by FanDuel today. I always want to make sure that we get FanDuel, because if you really want to get into it, that's the way to do it. You, right now, if you're a new customer, can get $250 back in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, it might be on anything from who the first pick is to who the guy who's still sitting in the green room at the end of night one. That might be kind of fun, Matt. And that's where it all comes down here. We have Brett Veach being Brett Veach. I thought he was pretty candid. We got a little bit of confirmation from Andy Reid just the other day that Kingsley Suamataia is going to compete at left guard. Not a surprise. We kind of felt that was coming. But none of that changes what I think is Brett Veach's core tendency in that he doesn't care what it is. The best graded guy on his board is where he's going to go. And in this particular situation, I feel like that is a tendency that not only will be tested, but should be broken if it falls like it falls for me, where I have 17 first-round grades and I'm sitting at 31 and nobody's left. I have got to get out of that pick. Even if I'm not getting a haul, Brett Veach has to break his tendency and actually get something done in a trade back if that happens again. Do you agree?
I mean, it's interesting to me because, you know, Brett's intention is to be aggressive, and we have a little bit of a history. I mean, I know it's been noted that, hey, of the 4 times that Brett Veach has had a first round pick, he's gone up half the time and he stayed put half the time. There's technically a 5th time because one of those years he had 2 first round picks, and he moved up in one of them to get Trent McDuffie, which, to his word, the 2 players that they moved up to go get were players that they had first round grades on. So Trent McDuffie and Xavier Worthy were 2 players, first round grades. They went to go get them. I mean, the kind of the underreported part of that, undersold part of that is that, hey, George Karlaftis was a player that had a second round grade on. So was good player. They liked him, but they were perfectly fine sitting and waiting for him to come to them. So they've taken other players that they've had second round grades on the first round because that's all that's left. 9 times out of 10, I mean, if you're drafting at 31 and in most years you've got 16 to 18, and Brett told us last week he's got maybe 12 to 14 players that they've got first round grades on, what's the likelihood of one slipping past 20, 24, 25 that you're in a position to go get? Exactly. Very, very slim. So I think on the one part, hey, Brett Veach isn't going to overpay to move up to get someone that they've got a second round grade on. If it's nothing but second round players left, they'll wait for the board to fall to them. And then it's, does someone else have a player that they want to go get? And that's the only way that you can make a move up into the 3rd round or first round, or move back into the 2nd round. The only way you're going to do that is if somebody else has got a player that they want. And I mean, if I'm a GM, I'm not going up to get a 5th-year option for a quarterback because, as I've been saying, I don't get the logic of it, because if the player's any good, you're going to have to give them an extension after year 3 and pay them anyway. If they're not good enough to pick up their 5th-year option, you're not worrying about signing them to an extension in year 3. Chances are they're going to be gone by year 5 because you're going to have moved on to somebody else and traded them. So it's not going to be your problem. I do see that with some players like a Trent McDuffie, though, because that 5th-year option for the Chiefs is leverage to keep his value down. That's a negotiating tool with them trying to get a 3rd-year, 5th-year, an extension done, because his 5th year is going to be ridiculously cheap. With quarterbacks, no good quarterbacks playing under a 5th-year option, because it's just not enough money. So, I mean, if you're iffy on a quarterback on your 5th-year option, you need to move on from your quarterback because they're not good enough. So that said, what teams are willing to move up? We haven't seen a lot of movement of that in the last few years. And that's why the Chiefs, sometimes have been stuck with their pick late in the 1st round, because they haven't been able to find a buyer. Saying you'd like to move down is great, but unless you got a partner, not going to happen.
And that's the hardest part. And I think just looking at this and the tendency that he is over aggressive, over is probably a bad characterization. He's aggressive enough to go get it done. Do you think, just gut feeling, because of the lack of talent in this draft, and we'll talk about the quarterback smokescreens, that's coming up later in the show, but is that enough for him to be willing to make more available in terms of capital? Not that he's overpaying, but that it might take a little bit more because this class is so thin in the 1st round.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part of it, because if I'm a GM, I really am not that concerned about, who my 1st round pick is, because once again, I might be willing to move out of the 1st round because, one, I mean, and certainly with some of the mock draft situations that I've been going through in different, in different cases, let's face it, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to be available at 31. But if you look at a lot of the different scenarios, the case is, and the point is that in a lot of cases, one, not a player that you think would be valuable enough to go up and get, not without a lot of risk. And, there's a player like a Josh Simmons that we can talk about that, to me, whether you got a 1st round grade on him or not, it's too much of a risk to pay to move up to get him just because of the injury downside. So, what are you trying to do? I mean, you really want to maximize your number of picks that you've got in maybe the first 100, 120. And the Chiefs, hey, they've got 1 pick outside that, but they've got already, 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. That's a great place to be. I'd like to upgrade that 4th round pick too, just so that it's in a little bit better position. And if you could do that in a 1st round move out, you could still probably, 1, get the player that you want, and then 2, upgrade that pick down the road, or get an extra pick in the 4th round, something of that nature, because that's where the real meat of this draft is, and that you can probably get a player that's undervalued. 5th and 6th don't really interest me that much, but you get the 2nd through the 4th rounds, that's where this draft looks like it's got its best depth.
This is my favorite time of year because I'm happy when I can just say to people, tell me lies. And guess what? They are. This player is part of it. We're going to get to the lying right next after this. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving away new customers an incredible way to get into the action right now. When you join FanDuel and you place a first bet of $5, you can earn up to $250 in bonus bets if that bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes it easy no matter what season it is. Now that March Madness is over, we're moving it on to the NBA. It's going to be baseball, and then we are going to finally get back to ball on the field for the NFL. From 3-pointers to steals to assists to making those kicks, it's all here, and your chance is at FanDuel. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Lies, 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 and more lies. Well, I'll tell you the truth. In the Rogue APC draft guide and over on NFL 33, where you can see my actual draft board, it's available for free on NFL 33. You got to buy the draft guide, but use that code locked on. LOC will get you that discount. So check that out. Okay, Matt, you hit probably the number one guy that I have in my mind. There's a couple of corners. There's a couple of edges. And there's a lot of injury lying going on right now. And the guy at the top of the list sets up a scenario that you just foreshadowed. I don't think that you went too deep into it. But if that's the case, and there are several reports that conflict with each other about the status of Josh Simmons, I was told to expect a pro day that I still haven't seen. So where are you on the lying about this particular prospect?
Yeah, I guess one of those things, I guess everyone's trying to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Everything everybody says is from a certain point of view. We definitely get Jedi mind tricks this time of year, though, which is, hey, maybe just don't see what you thought you saw at the combine or a pro day, or maybe we're going to have an additional pro day that doesn't happen. You never know. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm not a tinfoil hat conspiracy person, so I don't necessarily buy into the notion that, hey, sometimes teams will start rumors to drive a player's value down because they want to be able to get them at their spot, or, there's the conspiracy theory that agents will sometimes plant stories about other players because they want to drive that player's value down and their player's value up. A lot of those, conspiracy theories that go around, the reality of it is that most of the lies told this time of year, it's all about driving players' value up. So it's usually either someone on the player's side that's trying to paint everything in the best possible picture. And sometimes it's not necessarily lying. It's just maybe selective choosing of the facts or presentation of the facts. So, Josh Simmons is the biggest enigma in this draft, because you've got reporting that says, everything from that knee is sketchy to the knee is great. There's nothing to worry about. That maybe he's not ready right now, but he's going to be ready by OTAs or training camp. Don't worry about it. He's all set to go. He's 100% and everything's back in normal. I mean, the reality is probably somewhere in between. And that's where it usually is and rests with almost every injured player that we get these stories on. It's like, what do you believe? Well, as a fan, about the best thing you can probably do is just go with the baseline, which is, like I said, that the truth is somewhere in the middle. The only ones that really know for sure are the player and the teams that do the evaluations. Everybody at the combine gets medicals on these players. If they've got concerns, then they can bring them in for a visit and get a second round. Chiefs are among many teams that did that with Josh Simmons, because, again, with an injury like that, with a torn patella tendon, you can't take that player without doing your due diligence, without bringing them in for a visit. If there's a team that takes Josh Simmons and did not have him in for one of their 30 visits, they will immediately go on my list of NFL teams that don't know what they're doing. This isn't Trent McDuffie that the Chiefs could take in 2022 without apparently ever meeting him, because their due diligence says this kid is the real deal. The film, real deal. No injuries, no concerns. You can do that. This is a player that's not that case, and there's a few others that are in that case. And some players that might be rumored for the Chiefs, I might bring into this conversation simply because then there's other questions, because this is what I hear from the Chiefs. The one nugget I get, when talking about the first round, is that any of the players that are going to be available at 31 are going to be available for a reason. There's something wrong with them. That's what this draft is. It's not necessarily going to be, that we're picking at 31, that maybe you're just picking of the best from a bunch of second round players. There's so many players in this year's draft that have question marks, whether they're injury flags or character flags, whatever it may be. You might end up finding yourself choosing between really, really good players that have some concerns, whether it's like a Josh Connerly, and whether or not, he's played enough in football to be ready and played enough high-level college football to be ready, or a Luther Burton, and whether or not he practices hard enough, and, what his work ethic is. There's all these questions about players. Some of them are legitimate and some of them aren't. But the teams have to filter through that and decide, wait a minute, which flags and which concerns bother us the least? Or do you not take maybe the best available player and you go with somebody who doesn't have any concerns and problems? Well, once again, those are the teams that usually end up on my list of the 8 teams that don't know what they're doing. Because one thing you give the Chiefs for, as I ramble on, is that at least when they make picks in these areas, they're not afraid of picking a player that might have some flags, that might have some concerns, as long as it's a player that they feel like that they can fit into their locker room and won't be a detriment to the team.
And that's what it all comes down to. And for me, that becomes a value proposition here. Because if you are in that situation where everybody's got warts, and that is true of everything outside of the top 5 picks in most years, but the trade down has to be the thing there, because then the risk is mitigated. If you select somebody that has either an iffy medical in Simmons' case or iffy dedication in Burden's case, it's a whole lot different doing it at 39 because you traded out with the Bears than it is at 31. And I think that might sound like not a big distinction to people, 8 spots. That is a significant difference in my book. Do you see it differently?
No, I don't. And especially because, my colleague Nick Jacobs and I on our 41 is the Mike podcast had a very similar conversation a couple of days ago, which was, hey, if you're a Chiefs fan, there's 2 players that the Chiefs took in the first round that had they had their druthers, they would have loved to have traded back in the second round and maybe still taken those exact same players. And the 2 in particular are Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Felix Anudike-Uzomah. And my question is, if you're as a Chiefs fan, if those 2 players were taken in the second round rather than in the first round, would you feel differently about them? Would their own mindsets be different? Would they not be trying as hard to live up to the pressure and the expectations of being a first round pick, and rather just trying to go out and be themselves because they were a second round pick? I think the expectations game, both that the fans, players, and teams have, is completely changed when you take a player, let's say in the proper round, and put them in the right spot. So yeah, I do, and that's why I think that taking a player like a Josh Simmons, especially if you're the Chiefs, because let's face it, there's outside of quarterback, there might be a handful of just high pressure positions and situations around the league. Right now, one of the most brutal jobs in the NFL outside of quarterback is left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, because you are going to be in the absolute burning of spotlights, not just from Chiefs fans, but from NFL fans, from people around the league. They're all going to be watching you closely. So that, to me, it's a high pressure situation. Is that a place where you want to put a rookie coming off an injury? I think it's a really difficult spot to be.
I agree with you completely. And that's part of dedicating yourself to getting it right, is being able to judge the room and everything and where it's going, seeing through the smoke. What do we have to steer through? That's coming up next. Did you know that Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any gaming or entertainment hub into one of them with the Fire Stick for 4K devices. No console needed. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, and sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including College Football 25, Call of Duty, and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite TV shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on Fire TV. The latest technology takes it all up a notch, whether you're on Wi-Fi 6 with the super low latency mode. You can get that in the Fire Stick 4K, delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay and lightning fast speeds to stay competitive, even if you're playing some of the most engaging sports. I use it when I play Call of Duty, when I'm online getting my rear handed to me in Madden, that I know some of you are doing out there. It happens, but it goes a long way, and it makes the experience much, much better, just if you can take it easy and enjoy what you're doing. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV locked on. That's all one word to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required, but they're available on select devices, including the Fire Stick 4K second gen, the Fire TV Stick 4K Max, that's first and second generation, and the Fire TV Cube third generation. Check out Amazon Fire TV with Locked On. Fire is what I'm about, and fire produces smoke, and smoke is everywhere right now. The number one thing that I am trying to figure out exactly how much BS is in the air is this thing about nobody wants any of these quarterbacks. The last time we heard this was the Kenny Pickett class. That our guy, not just my guy anymore, folks, Chiefs Kingdom, Bailey Zappi is your guy now too. That class just plummeted. Now all these reports, quarterbacks coming out, they're not going to sit in the green room. They're not going to get selected, supposedly. I still think that is a smokescreen for those teams that are quarterback hungry, because this just took all the pressure off of them. Whether you're Cleveland, whether I think there could be a craziness going on with the New York Giants where they don't take a quarterback top and they come back in the second round or trade back in. I think that's the biggest smokescreen going right now, is that nobody wants any quarterback. Matt, where are you?
My biggest question is I keep fixating on what our old friend Mike Berganzi said at his introductory press conference, which when he said you just don't pass on a generational player when you get a chance. There is one generational player in this year's draft, and it's not a quarterback. It's Travis Hunter. So if you get a chance to get a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player at 2 positions with 1 pick, how can you bypass that? And I mean, if the Titans were to take Hunter at number 1 overall, which I think they should, I don't know that they should, that they're going to, but I think that they should. If they do, that just seems to change the entire draft. I mean, I think that would just toss everything on its head, and immediately, hey, do teams now jostle trying to go up to get Cam Ward at number 2, or does suddenly it start the quarterback slide? Because then everybody's like, well, wait a minute, none of these quarterbacks are really that big of a deal. I mean, this quarterback class is a lot like, to me, it's the equivalent of this year's left tackle class to a degree. I mean, look at all the quarterbacks that went last year. It was a good quarterback class. Look at the left tackles that went last year. It was a great left tackle class. This year, these quarterbacks, I mean, there's some people who don't think that even like Sanders is a legitimate first round pick, that maybe he's a second round quality quarterback. Cam Ward might be number 1 by default. I mean, if it starts to slide and all of a sudden everybody's like, well, wait a minute, you know what? These edge rushers and defensive tackles and corners are all better than these guys. Does it start a slide? Or does once the Titans pass, if they passed on a quarterback, does all of a sudden it be like, oh, great, all these quarterbacks are available, let's go get them. And all of a sudden, Tyler Slough goes number 10 overall. I don't know what's going to happen.
I agree with you. And folks, you nailed it, Matt. Go to NFL33.com, go download my draft board so you can see it, because I am one of those people. The number 2 quarterback on my draft board is at the top of the second round. His name's Jackson Dart. That's the way that goes. I am not alone in this league. So you can take that for what it's worth, but I have 20 plus draftable prospects at defensive interior. I have 20 plus draftable prospects at edge. There is too much talent there. I think, unfortunately for the Chiefs, this first round may become a run on the trenches, and that is problematic for them. And that's another reason why I don't think anything's set in stone here. But I agree with you. I think Travis Hunter should be the first pick. I think he might be. And I don't think that precludes them from then turning around and trading up from the top of the second back into the first to get one of those fallen quarterbacks, if that is the case. I'm not convinced nobody wants them. If there's another storyline that's throwing you for a loop right now that you're seeing too much smoke for it to be real, what is it?
I mean, Josh Simmons is probably the one, because I tell you what, I've seen too many mock drafts in probably the last 48 hours that have Josh Simmons going really high. And maybe that's legitimate. Maybe he's going to go top 20, top 25. Maybe that's going to happen. I just have a feeling he's going to end up being there for the Chiefs at or near 31, and they're going to have a decision to make. I mean, I'm doing a mock draft later today with a station in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, that has NFL beat writers come on every year to make their picks, and there's 3 players available for the Chiefs at that spot. Josh Simmons is already gone, but Josh Connerly is there, Luther Burden is there. Those are probably the 2 best players at that spot remaining. I mean, that's a tough decision for me, because I think those are 2 players who are worthy of that spot and have a lot of upside, but they both have question marks about them.
I agree with you completely, and I think that might be a really interesting one. I did a piece on the East Coast this last week, and I threw some of those scenarios out, and that might be the most hate mail I've ever gotten from a TV appearance, but it is what it is. Everybody's got their own take. So right now, the countdown is on. Any last takeaway?
I forgot there was one other player in that will complicate it even more. Matthew Golden is still left at that spot.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, now it's getting complex.
Now it's getting complex. So I think going to be a really unpredictable draft. And that's why everybody, even more so than most years, I think that, talking to people in the Chiefs organization, they'll sometimes talk about scenarios where maybe a certain player is available and what they might do. this year, everybody I talked to was less like they have no idea who's going to be available at 31. Not just like who individually, but like we couldn't even name you 3 players that we think are going to be comfortably available at 31. I mean, even some players that, you know, are universally maybe considered second round picks. I mean, there's no guarantee that a guy like Ariante Ursary doesn't go in the first round. So, you know, it's especially once you get past the first round picks, which is going to be in that kind of 15 to 20 range, I think, as far as the consensus amongst most teams, I think it could be a pretty wild draft.
I hope so. I'm actually looking forward to that. I'm here for chaos this year. One thing I can guarantee you folks is that there'll be 32 selections. I don't know what the teams will be. I don't know what the players are going to be, but there will be 32. That's all we got at this point. So get ready. Hope that you're prepared. Matt, where will you be coverage-wise for this event?
I will be at One Arrowhead Drive at the Chiefs training facility on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, covering the draft, where everything happens there. So, between ChiefsDigest.com and Chiefs Digest on YouTube, you'll be able to get updates throughout the weekend. And I'll try and do some videos, even that just take you inside behind the scenes and show you what's going on, and especially show you what I'm eating, because the Chiefs usually feed us pretty good on draft week.
I'm gonna need to sneak into that war room, Matt. Just drop the phone in the corner and I'll be fine. Folks, I will be live on RGR Football all weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll do some recaps. Do not miss any of it. We have all the coverage, and we will have pick selections for you here as well. Matt, thanks for your time, and thanks for everything that you do in getting us ready for the big weekend.
That one of the funnest weeks of the year, Ryan. Love it.
Yeah, it certainly is. I hope you guys feel the same way. Check out ChiefsDigest.com. NFL33.com for my board, Rogue APC for the draft guide. Go get it all because you need it all, because this is about to get very, very hectic. Have a great one. We'll be back tomorrow with our final preview, and we'll talk to you then.